Okay, I believe we're streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube and possibly on X as well. So depending on which part of the world you're tuning in from, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to the 15th edition of TCRM Conversations with Esau Bassi. TCRM Conversations with Esau Bassi is an initiative of the Cross River Movement. And what we aim at doing is creating a platform for us to come together as perseverance, to engage and exchange ideas that can foster the development of our state. So today we're going to be focusing on quite an interesting topic and something that is very critical to the progress of our state, and that is the 2024 budget. So the budget, as we know, is a very important document. In fact, it's a document that's enshrined in law, and it guides how the state spends money, essentially. So it's important that we all understand the budget. It's important that we all understand how the budget is going to impact and affect our lives as perseverance. And so I'd like this to be very engaging and very conversational. So we've got three distinguished guests here this afternoon. But before I introduce them, I think I would like to just go over a few ground rules for our event today. So everyone except the guests and the facilitators on the Zoom meeting are going to be muted. So you wouldn't be able to unmute yourself unless you're given the permission to do so. Now, if you have any question that you would like to ask a guest, what we'd like you to do if you're on the Zoom meeting is to use the reactions button at the top, well, the top of the bottom of your Zoom application, depending on, I guess how your system is set up. So if you use the reactions button to raise your hand, then we will be able to unmute you and give you the opportunity to ask your question. And we will give preference to those who have their cameras switched on. So we'd encourage as many people as possible to have their cameras switched on. Once you've finished asking your question, use the same reactions icon to lower your hand. Right. So if you're on Zoom, feel free to use, if you don't want to ask your question by speaking, use the comments section to share your question or your comment. I encourage everyone to be civil and to be respectful while doing so. If you're on Zoom, on X, on Facebook, as we know, we're streaming this across different platforms, feel free to use the comment section on each of those platforms to ask your questions or provide your comments. I'm not sure if we are, but we should actually be streaming live on Sparkling FM 92.3, and it would be great if a member of our team would be able to confirm that, but we should be streaming on Sparkling FM 92.3 FM. And if you have any questions, you're listening on the radio and you have any questions, you can WhatsApp your question to 0806 756 6448. I'll repeat that. 0806 756 6448. Don't call the number, please. So just send a WhatsApp message and with your question or your comment. Now, if you would like to propose a topic for a future conversation, do that in the comment section, and we'll be happy to pick that up and put it to consideration. Okay, so jumping in, thanks to everyone who's joined. I can see we have, quite a decent attendance here, which is quite encouraging. It shows the interest that people have in the state's budget. So we should have here three guests, and I will introduce them, not in any particular order. So I know we have on here the Special Advisor to the Governor on Budget Monitoring and Evaluation. He is Mr. Otu-Ita. It's a pleasure to have you on. We should have Mr. David Etim, who is the President of the Calabar Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, He also doubles as chairman of the Ports Advocacy and Marketing Committee under CalCIMA. So David Etim, if you're here, it's a pleasure to have you. And we should have Mr. Mike Odera, who is a commissioner, the Cross River State Commissioner of Finance, who's a chartered banker, a chartered accountant, and a member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation. I believe he's a geologist by training. So it's great also to have him on the conversation. So I think the first thing that I would do is I'll start with you, Mr. Otu-Ita. So first of all, so we've invited the Commissioner for Finance and we've invited you also as the SA budget. I think what would be useful to start with, just to give everyone a sense of who's responsible for what, is to tell us what role your department plays in the process of developing and monitoring the budget, and then hopefully Finance Commissioner will be able to tell us what role he plays as well. So I'll hand over to you, Mr. Otu-Ita.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, listeners and viewers. My name is Otu-Ita. I oversee activities at the Cross River State Budget Monitoring and Evaluation Office. The responsibility of my office is first to ensure we assist the ministries, department, and agency to develop a work plan for the state. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you clearly.
Oh, okay. So to assist ministries, department, and agencies to develop a work plan using the state planning commission. And when this work plan is being developed, the budget office considers them and look at them in line with the vision of the government of the day. And then these action plans or work plan is now taken to the State Executive Council.
We seem to be having an issue with.
Okay. I thought it was me. Okay.
David, nice to have you on.
Same here. I just thought I didn't hear him anymore, so I thought the issue was from my end. So that's why I said hello, but no problem.
Yeah,
let's wait for him to come back up. Yes.
So okay. let's give a minute or so.
Yes.
See yes. Sort it out. All right. So I mean, for anyone who's on Zoom, if you have any question that you'd like to ask or any comment you'd like to make, like I said, just use the reactions icon and submit your question or comment, and would be very happy to read those out. Or again, I mean, if you want to ask your question yourself, would also be happy to give you the opportunity to do that. David, maybe while we're waiting for him to get back in, maybe you just give us your insight from a member of the organized private sector about the 2024 budget.
Well, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, Esau, and Happy New Year to everybody here. I don't think we've seen this year yet, so Happy New Year. And, looking forward on the budget, firstly, I'd like to say that this particular administration has shown some degree of intent to be able to move the state forward. But to be very honest, that intent is also predicated on capacities that exist. Now, the entire public sector of Cross River State has suffered significant degradation in terms of capacity. Even the governor mentioned it in his budget address, where he spoke about the issue of a huge proportion of the service retiring in this year that we've just entered. Early in the year, I think by first quarter, a significant amount of public servants are going to be retiring. Now, I actually see one of the biggest challenges before going into the issues of the budget and the money allocations and proposed money allocations and all that. I see a big challenge in the area of capacity, because the budget, however well intended, if the capacity of the public sector to deliver on the promises that the budget portends is not there, then the budget has a problem. Regardless of whether there's enough money or not, the budget has a problem. So off the bat, I say that there is a significant challenge in Cross River State with the implementation of this budget because of a dearth of capacity in the public sector to deliver on the project. So that's on that side. Now, when we begin to go into the conversations as regards 2023, but because we have to locate the 2024 budget, we have to look at 2023 and how that ran. We will see that there was a great deal of underperformance in terms of budget implementation. Significant underperformance occurred in 2023. Now, in some areas, picking like tourism, for example, tourism had a budget allocation in 2023 of, I think it was just about 384 million naira in 2023. Okay. Of that budget, the actual performance was only 24.78% of that budget. Okay. Now, the budget of that same Ministry of Tourism in 2024 is 2.12 billion. Okay. Now, if we want to draw a parallel from a human being, let's from a banking point of view, somebody is doing business of 5,000 naira, or let me say 100,000 naira in a year. Okay. And he's even underperforming his 100,000 projection for the year. Then you move him from that 100,000. Okay, let's even use these same figures as business budgets. 384 million as the budget for a particular business in a year. Then same guy, same business, same staff, same everything. Then you automatically move him to a budget of 2.1 billion. Same infrastructure, same manpower. In fact, his manpower is diminishing because a lot of his staff are going to retire. So I begin to see a situation whereby no matter how well intended this budget is, the implementation of it is going to run into stormy waters. That's, and I think Otu-Ita is back. So I think I'll yield the floor back to him.
Okay, David, thanks very much for that. But I mean, someone else could argue that the fact that the 2024 budget for tourism has moved from 3.84 million, which you said it was, to 2 point something billion could signify intent on the part of this administration to really, really focus on that sector and grow it. So that's just another look at it.
Yes, no, definitely. It is an intent to focus. But you see, the governor is not going to be the tour guide. The governor, the commissioner is not going to be the what they call them, the people that take people around, the tour guides or the foot soldiers. It's a whole structure. The budget relies on human beings. The money is not going to get up to do the work. Now, those human beings require capacity development to be sure they can deliver on the expectation. So I look forward to a situation whereby in this 2 point something billion, a significant amount of money will be dedicated to capacity development. I don't think we should be too much in a hurry to begin to bring people to Cross River, the destination Cross River. We lost that over years ago. we need to build back.
Okay.
And to build back, we need to be able to develop capacity. That's what I'm saying. You know, so let's not be too gung-ho about infrastructure development, blah, 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 crowds feeling Calabar as it used to feel it in the past. Let's not be too much in a hurry for that. Let's pace ourselves. As they say, let's make haste slowly. Thank you.
Okay, David, thanks very much. I'll come back to you to help us understand how you feel that this budget will impact on the organized private sector, how it applies to members of your chamber and how they see it as well. But yeah, SA, are you back with us? I think you're here, so if you can just unmute yourself. It looks like he's here, but his audio hasn't connected. So the idea was for him to explain to us the role of his department in in developing and monitoring the budget. And also it would have been great to get from him. I'm not sure if the Commissioner for Finance is here yet, but also to know where finance sits within that whole process. David, I may have to come back to you while we give the essay a bit more time to sort his audio
No
out.
problem. No problem.
Okay,
Glad to fill in the gap.
So please, just let us know, how has the Chamber of Commerce, which is the organized private, you represent the organized private sector in Cross River State, how has the budget been received by the sector? So you've made the point about, you've raised the concerns about lack of capacity to implement the budget, but the budget has been passed, the budget has to be implemented some way. What's the view of the chamber about this budget?
No, I must be very honest with you. This government had very robust engagement with the organized private sector, civil society on this budget. Even in the address of the chairman of the House Committee on Appropriation and Finance and Appropriation, he confirmed that there was robust engagement. Now, a proof of that robust engagement is that on last week, Friday, I think on the 28th or so, the last Friday of December, the governor signed into law a presumptive tax bill. Now, one of the biggest challenges in Cross River State over the last 8 years has been this issue of revenue points. When I use the word revenue point, anybody that is in Cross River State knows exactly, it connotes a clear image of touts on the road harassing people, harassing market women for money. Okay? And on the roads, putting checkpoints all over the place, just collecting money. Now, the government of this particular administration had very robust engagement with organized private sector and civil society. And we are very, very glad that side by side, the signing into law of this budget, the governor also signed into law a presumptive tax bill. So all the issues that the touts, the leakages, all kind of harassment, all of that has statutorily been eliminated. Now, the implementation of that is another matter. But the organized private sector, which I represent, I also happen to be the chairman of the Organized Private Sector Forum in Cross River State, as side by side as being the president of Calabar Chamber of Commerce. So the organized private sector, which I can speak for, is definitely poised to effectively engage and follow through in the monitoring of the implementation of the presumptive tax law, so that we can be sure that the intent of government trickles down to the least taxable person, and they get the benefit of the presumptive tax law. That also works for government, because government will be able to see its revenue clear in view, have clear sight of its revenues. Now, speaking on the revenue side of things, we did a bit of a small survey in the Kaikaukwa market. some time back, last year, early last year, immediately after the removal of subsidy. And we discovered that, especially at the hawking, the hawkers, okay, the hawkers were paying the tax increment of hawkers were paying 1,000+% of the taxes they were supposed to pay. So if a hawker was to pay 1,000 naira a year in taxes, they were paying 1,000% more in the Ika market. Okay.
So what's
so
the
these
reason?
were the,
Was that just, you know, people just going and extorting money from
this
them?
issue of revenue points is extortion. To call a spade, it was extortion by people with political clout. Okay, by people with political clout. Now, 99% of that money never ended up in government coffers. It ended up in private pockets because it was untraceable money. It's cash money. They give you a little piece of paper, say, calling it a ticket, but you can't trace the origins of that ticket. And there is no accountability to the ticket. So that money just disappears. So these are the kind of things that have happened in the past. But
David, let me pause you. Thanks very much. Let me pause you. So I know we have the essay back. Internet connectivity seems to be it seems to be fluctuating very much. But if you can hear me, please just unmute yourself and then just tell us if you can answer the question about the role your department plays across the entire life cycle of the budget, just so people understand for the sake of context.
Mute to unmute, okay. Okay, I think I've been muted right now.
You have, yes. And I hope your connection is
I'm so sorry about the internet connection. So I'll go over it again. I'm so sorry about it.
The budget. I hope internet connectivity is addressed in the budget.
You know, I'm doing this. I'm joining this conversation right away from the village. So I'm very sorry. The network in the village is not very good. I'm very sorry about that. So the whole process starts with the State Planning Commission developing a work plan. And then from the work plan, the budget office will now send a circular to ministries, department, and agency to develop a medium-term sector strategy. From that medium sector strategy, we now issue what we call the budget call circular. The budget call circular is what sets out the guidelines for all the assumptions, including revenues and expenditure that will be made in the coming year. And these guidelines are being issued in the second quarter before the last day, working day in the month of June. And then after that, MDS, ministries, department, and agencies are now expected to forward their estimates to the Cross River State Budget Office. And when these estimates are being received, MDS are now invited for bilateral meetings. The purpose of these bilateral meetings is to enable budget office call other members of the budget committee members. It's important that I mention members of the budget committee, the Commissioner for Finance, the Debt Management Office, the Office of the Accountant General, the Internal Revenue Service, the Due Process Office, the Auditor General, and I think the Auditor for Local Government. So the Budget Committee will now sit down and look at the estimates that have been presented by MDS, and then we'll now begin to consider variables like inflation, exchange rate, our different sources of internally generated revenue. And then we now open conversations with ministries, department, and agencies to see how we can streamline their activities, because most of the time we'll have the MDAs coming with very bogus estimates because they want to achieve achieve so much within 1 year. So the role of budget office is to consider these activities in line with the vision of the government and in line with the priorities of the government of today. So that's basically what budget office does. So it is after the collation of the estimates presented by ministries, department, and agency, that the budget office will now seek the endorsement of the governor to present a document to the State Executive Council. Because at the level of bilateral, it's just the budget committee members and the different ministries, department, and agency. So this document, after a few adjustments has been made to it, is now presented to the State Executive Council, where all commissioners supervising the different department and agencies will be sitting, and then these issues are looked at holistically, and if they are aligned with the vision of the government, then that is when the governor will now authorize budget office to quickly populate the estimate and then for presentation to the Cross River State House of Assembly.
Okay, thanks very much. I think you've shared that, that's very useful to help people understand how the budget gets created in Cross River State. Obviously, your role, there's the creation of the budget, but I imagine there's also the monitoring and evaluation of the budget. So there will be certain things that happen after the budget has become a working document, as it were. Maybe you might want to shed some light on those. And then someone is asking, can the full budget document be made public in the course of this meeting? So is there a link? Because I actually looked for it on the state government website, and what I found was the governor's speech to the House of Assembly, but not the budget itself. So someone's asking if that can be made available during this session. Maybe that would help people interrogate and ask more specific questions.
Okay. The appropriation law that was signed by the governor, the 2024 appropriation law, is online. It's being hosted currently on the Cross River State Internal Revenue Service. The Cross River State Internal Revenue Service. And even if you're using Google, all you just need to do is to type Cross River State 2024 Appropriation Law, and you see a copy of the law. The full details of the 2024 budget will be uploaded on or before the 31st of January 2024. Reason being that the budget goes through several review from the World Bank, review from the Nigerian Governors Forum, and review from other development partners. So it takes us a window of about 28 days for us to get done with these reviews. Because the budget went to the Assembly, and the budget went to the Assembly at 250 billion naira and came out from the Assembly as 296 billion. So those adjustments will now need to be uploaded, populated rather, on the template. So it takes a maximum of about 28 days. But we're hoping that by next week, we're very hopeful, because we've shared correspondence with the Nigerian Governors Forum Secretariat already. We are waiting for their response. And once we get the feedback from them, we're hoping to generate the chart of accounts without delay. So we're just hoping that on or before the 20th of January, the full comprehensive details of the 2024 budget will be available online.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you were meant to just touch on maybe some of the things that happen after the budget has become law.
Okay. That's the second part of it. Yes. Budget office is also charged with the responsibility of the monitoring and evaluation. And what we do is that first, the moment the budget has been signed into law, the governor will have to delegate some responsibility to the Commissioner for Finance to sign the warrant. The warrant is an instrument that authorizes the Accountant General to dispense money. And once money is being dispensed to MDS to implement their projects and program, the role of budget office is now to monitor this program and ensure that this program, that there's value for money. And that is why quarterly, budget office will publish a document that is called the Budget Performance Report. That report is also available on the State Internal Revenue Service. That report is published quarterly.
Okay, thanks very much. So like you said, I think the budget for 2024 as submitted by the governor was approximately 250 billion naira. Are you able to shed some light on some key priority areas that the government is focusing on as far as the 2024 budget is concerned? So, of course, there's all the regular things, salaries, administrative things, etc. There would also be capital projects. Are there some things that are very close to the heart of the governor or this administration that we should see implemented within this budget cycle?
Oh, okay. The government of Senator Bassey Otu is interested in taking our people as much as the government can out of the poverty line. So that is why in the preparation of the 2024 budget, the governor had ensured that the budget should be prepared in line with the sustainable development goals. And the governor had also instructed ministries, department, and agency to ensure that there are components of this of the several goals of the SDG in their budget. And it's even for that reason that we also had the upward review, because the governor looked, when he had presented the budget on the 26th of October, saw that not enough provision was made for people living with disability. So the governor said, okay, that there must be inclusion. So for that reason, the governor had requested budget office to do a letter to the State House of Assembly to request for an upward review of the provision that was made for people living with disability. And the governor also advised budget office to also engage the State House of Assembly when deliberations were ongoing to see how we can also increase the provisions that were made for nutrition activity, for gender, for social protection, and for climate change. I think those were actually the new introductions that was made after the governor had presented upward review rather of estimates that was made after the governor presented the budget. That caused us to have that, I think, about the 46 billion naira variance from what the governor presented.
Okay. All right. So just to let everyone on the conversation know, have so a link to the budget, the appropriation bill for the 2024 has been posted in Zoom. So if you click on that, it would actually open up the document and you can, have a look at it and share whatever feedback you might have. So Essie, just a bit of feedback. So I know you said, yeah, you wanted to say something. Please go on.
All right, thank you very much. Also the proposed document, the proposed 250 billion is also available on that website. So it's important that people will also have to look at the proposed document, look at the law, and then also wait for the 20th of January when the actual appropriation estimates will be published.
Okay, sorry. So just so has the law actually been signed now? So, or is it come 28 days that the governor would sign it into law, and then we then have that working document that is fixed, as it were?
No, it's been signed into law. It was signed on the 29th of December into law. And the law will have to come from the Cross River State House of Assembly without any adjustment made by the budget department. It is after the governor has signed the document into law that the House of Assembly will now present to budget office all the adjustments that were made. And for every new so for every new inclusion of activities, it means budget office will now have to look at them to ensure that codes have been generated in line with the National Chart of Account. So that's why I said that it will take a few days for that to be done. But that is not to say that the budget is not in force. The budget is in force. The 2024 budget is in force. What is not available at the moment is the comprehensive details of the 2024 budget. But that's what the law is available.
I think that's clearly understood. So I think something that would be just a piece of feedback, because when people are looking for information about Cross River State, the go-to place is the Cross River State Government website. So even though we know maybe things, documents like this are on the sorry, on revenue website, it's not the go-to place for people looking for information. So it would be great if it's on the state government website. Okay, so we know a budget. Let me just ask a question and then maybe you can give your comment as well. So, of course, a budget is about money coming in and money going out. So if you can just help us shed light on what the funding sources for this budget are, and again, why do we have a budget? In the past year, we've had budgets of 1.2 trillion or thereabout, and then we have a budget of 250 billion. So maybe you can just talk about the funding sources and then talk about why there was that disparity maybe between previous budgets of the last administration and the current one.
Okay. First, I think let me attempt to address why this information is uploaded on the Cross River State Internal Revenue Service. The Cross River State official website has been under construction. I think the website, as of last week, understand the Commissioner for Science and Technology said that the website is fully ready, and we're hoping that in the coming days, this information will also be uploaded on the official website. But because we don't want to leave our people in the dark, we felt that it's also very appropriate that we upload it in an alternative on an alternative platform, which is the State Internal Revenue Service. Then talking about funding, can I go ahead?
Please, go ahead.
Okay, for funding, basically we're looking at three major heads, and one of the heads is revenue from the Federation account, the one that is popularly called FAC, and then the second one we're looking at internally generated revenue, and we're also looking at getting grants and aids from multilateral organizations. So those are basically three major sources of revenue that we will use to fund the 2024 budget. And for FAC, the Federation account is somehow defined. IGRL is also very defined. And for support in terms of aids and grant, the Ministry of International Development Coordination has done so much in that regard. And as at September 2023, we were able to get guarantees from a few multilateral organizations, like the African Development Bank is willing to support government in 2024 in a program that they intend to, in a program that is called a Special Agro Industrialization Zone. And then I think the World Bank is also coming in with some fund to help the state in a few other programs. So that's basically where we stand in terms of revenue that we need to use in funding the 2024 budget. If our projection for the revenue, we are very hopeful that we'll be able to raise at least a reasonable amount of money that will be able to give us at least a 90% performance. And then talking about the deviation from the trillion naira budget to what we currently have, I think it's all about the administration. We understand that the administration of Governor Ben Ayade carried a lot of very big vision, and the governor was actually looking. The Governor Ben Ayade was looking at a lot of foreign direct investment, and I think that also was the main principle for building his budget. And I know before he left office, by 2021, I know Governor Ben Ayade came into office in 2015, but I know by 2021, the governor was not presenting budgets in trillion because he saw that most of those sources were not forthcoming. My way in 2021, he had a budget of about 300 billion, and until he left office, I don't think his budget went above 350 billion.
All right. And I'm conscious of the fact we lost you for a few minutes, so if you don't mind, that's why we're trying to.
Okay, sorry about that.
But I will come back to David Etim. But the governor tagged this, is it people first budget, which on the face of it sounds very good. Should the average Cross Riverian be optimistic? And if
Sure.
so, hello, can you hear me? SA, can you hear me? David, are you with us? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Okay. Do you want to
Yeah.
react to anything that the SA said while we give him time to come back on?
No. I think he's on track. I mean, he's answering your questions, and he's answering it in classic administration style. Very, very straight to the point, very honest, very transparent. So I'm very happy with his engagement. I'm very happy with his responses. And like I said, I am worried about capacity. I am seriously worried about capacity. I mean, the SA is competent. I'm not talking about him in his personal capacity. I'm talking about the government as a whole, because the governor has identified this issue of capacity. And there needs to be, I think from what I understand, there was quite a few years of non-growth in the service. So there was no promotions for quite some years, from what information we've heard. I'm not a civil servant. I never have, and I don't think I will be. I'm a bit too old for that right now. So that's that point. But I think there is a major issue in that area, and how the government is going to rapidly wrap up capacity is what I really want to see, how they get that done and then drive the process. Intention is clear. There's no doubt in my mind that this government means well. There's no doubt in my mind that the nodal points, there's capacity at the nodal points. The SA budget, the commissioner for finance, the attorney general, like this around. There's capacity, no doubt. But that trickle down to the foot soldiers is where I am worried. I am very worried. Yeah, that's just that point. But then when we get into some more issues in terms of some nitty-gritty, I will drop a few things there. I mean, maybe I should drop it now. 80% of our budget, this 2024 budget, is dependent on external sources. As stated clearly on the floor of the House, the Chairman Appropriation Committee in his budget report made it clear. I'll be, if permitted, I will just read his comment where he says clearly that.
Just a moment. Can you maybe remove the background that you have there, because we're not.
Sorry, I've been trying to. It came up and I'm trying to remove it. I can't even see myself again. That's the problem I'm having.
Yeah, we can see. So
yeah, sorry, I don't know what I pressed. Let me just take off the camera so that it just takes that away. Has it taken off?
Yeah,
I think that's. So let me just take off the camera. I've been trying to get back. I don't know what I clicked on that created that problem.
So get back to the point. Let's get back to the point you were making.
Okay. So now, if I may just read the comment of Honorable Omini. He says here that about 80% of the budget is basically to be financed by externally. It's basically to be financed externally through grants and aids, and the need to check performance indicators of the SDG, of the SDG to match deliberate healthcare deliveries, healthcare services, humanitarian and poverty alleviation outcomes. So basically, 80% of our budget is dependent on grants and aid. Now, beyond us being an Afghanistan or some country that is coming out of war, a state like Cross River State should not be dependent on aid and grants to fulfill its budget. You shouldn't be. We have, I said it, I've said it to the governor, I've said it everywhere that I've been given audience. Cross River State has the potential of being the largest, if not one of the largest economies in Nigeria. We have that potential in landmass, in opportunities for trade. We are the second subnational with 3 international exit corridors. And one of them, the road corridors, we have 3 potentially. We have 1 operational, but the other 2, Ikang and Ekang, which could make us 3, which would take us way above everybody else. And I'm talking about legitimate trade corridors. I'm not talking about the bush parts. You know, we have land, sea, and air. Only Lagos has the same in the whole of Nigeria. We have 23,000 square kilometers of land. Lagos has only about slightly over 5,000. That's why Lagos has extended into Ogun State. And they have basically come some form of a confederation to be able to develop. So Cross River State has a lot going for it. You know, we are just sleeping on our oars. We've been sleeping on our capacity. And I pray seriously, and I, as president of CalCIMA and chairman of the organized private sector, I have made it a task for myself. I've set it as a task for myself to basically address the issue of how to get us from being a civil service mentally conceived state to being an entrepreneurial state mentally conceived. You know, so that our citizens understand this is what we have. This is the potential we have, and move to actualizing that potential. You know, the truth of the matter is that the budget, the Cross River State government budget, is only 6% of our GDP. This budget we're talking about today is only 6% of the GDP. At the federal level, the federal budget is only 12% of GDP, of Nigeria's GDP. So at best, all what we're talking about is only catalytic. It should be looked at catalytic capital to trigger major activity, which will be driven by the private sector. You know, so these are things we need to really focus on and drive. But we'll get to that. You know, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I believe the SA is able to sort out his what do you call it, his sound, and take back the floor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. I think he's probably still trying to sort it out, but while we're waiting for him, maybe I'll just run through a few highlights in the 2024 budget, and maybe we can get some feedback from people who are on the conversation, guests here. So like I said earlier, if you would like to share your perspective or ask a question about anything to do with the budget, if you're on Zoom, you can use the reactions icon there to raise your hand, and we'll yield the floor to you. So just a few things about the budget. So the budget is, as proposed, is called the People First budget. So total expenditure is approximately 250 billion. Out of that, the administration sector is they're proposing to spend about 78 billion. The economic sector, which David, I'm sure yourself and members of the chamber would be the details of, they're proposing to spend 79 billion. Law and justice sector, 5.6 billion. Regional sector, 972 million naira. And then the social, sorry, 972 million. And then the social sector, 87, I believe that's 87 million, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, so that's sort of the profile of so if anyone has any any questions, any comments at all they'd like to make about the budget, it's tagged the People First budget. Do you feel that this budget would actually deliver anything significant to the people of Cross River State, or do you feel business as usual? What difference does it make? I mean, we've been creating budgets for the last 30 odd years of the existence of the state, and nothing's Nothing's really changed. So I will open up to, to anyone who has a question that they would like to ask or a comment that they would like to share with us. Essay, are you back? I think the essay's audio is connecting, so hopefully we should have him back. But again, like I said, if anyone would like to ask a question or share a comment with us, use the reactions icon and let us know, and we'll let you have the opportunity to do so. Okay. All right, John Opata, I will unmute you, so please just go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, all the panelists. My name is Elizabeth Opata. Sorry, we joined quite late, but from the parts that I listened to, thank you so much for this platform and all that. My question is on the health, the part of the budget that has to do with the health sector. I don't think that part is clear enough. I know that sometime last year when I was trying to do a report in my organization, I saw something about in fact, it was something that I even reported to our Abuja office, where the governor said something about partnering with international donors to help to boost the health sector of the state. And I know that Cross River, amongst all the states in Nigeria, Cross River, when it comes to the health area, we are way behind. In fact, when there was a study, I participated in that study in 2019, and when it comes to maternal and perinatal mortalities, Cross River was like the second in the states. So I want to know the budget. How is it planning to cater to the health needs of the states? I think it was either in November or December last year, it came to the notice of the public that there was in the whole of Obanliku. That's what the particular, I can't remember the name of the what they call it now. The newspaper that reported that in the whole of Obanliku, there is only one medical doctor in the whole of Obanliku. So I would like that area to, I don't know if the panelists and the facilitators can help to just throw some light. What is the budgetary allocation to the health sector? Because in what you just finished listening, I wasn't paying attention, but I didn't hear that. So I'd like that to just be brought out. And I want to know what the governor is really doing. Because if you go to Cross River, has a lot of hard to reach areas, a whole lot of hard to reach areas. I'm talking of health-wise. Those hard to reach areas that people don't have access to basic primary health care. And even if they have access to, just still talking about that, either Obanliku or Obudu, the person in charge, the primary health care coordinator, at least was reported in the news. I think the person just retired or something. But the person was trying to make away with hospital beds, the solar equipment that were there in the hospital. So the health sector of the state is nothing to write home about, really. So I really want to know. And because health, in a sense, is really wealth. If people are not healthy, they won't even be talking about the budget. So what's really the governor? How much is he allocating to the health sector of the state? And even if the allocation is not much, there are a lot of
I think we lost Elizabeth, but we kind of get the gist of what her question is. So I think for her benefit and maybe for the benefit of others who might be interested in an answer to that question, I would just read out what the governor said in his speech, and then maybe the essay will be able to throw more light and go into a bit more detail. So with regard to health, the governor says healthcare delivery will form an integral part of the state development agenda. To this end, all primary health centers are to be given relevant facelift and equipment to meet the health needs of our people. Access to quality health service in all 18 local government areas of the state shall be pursued with renewed vigor. Collaboration in the provision of rural health care with international donor agencies shall be given due attention. Our community health officers and caregivers shall be given adequate training as a means of empowering them towards qualitative service delivery. There's also provision for the upgrade of facilities in the state general hospitals across the state, as well as the School of Nursing, the schools of nursing in the state. These incentives are aimed at giving people an enhanced quality of life and increased life expectancy, which translates to economic assets for the state. So that's what the governor said. Elizabeth, I don't know if you heard that, but that's what the governor said. I don't know if that throws a bit of light for you. It doesn't go into any details. So SA, if you can unmute, I don't know if you can speak specifically to what the plans are for healthcare in the state. So the person who asked that question, I think, works with an international agency and particularly interested in healthcare.
All right. Thank you very much.
You might be, let's prioritize your audio over your video. So if your network is not very good, if you want to switch your video off, it would rather have your audio than not have it at all. Thank you.
All right. Sorry, I joined. I listened to the question that was raised on health. The total budgetary provision for the health sector is 24 billion naira. And you had already highlighted some of the activities that was mentioned in the governor's speech. The governor is looking at, in fact, the governor is interested in getting medical services to the last mile, to the last community. So we're looking at upgrading all our primary health centers. And beyond upgrading, we're looking at communities without primary health centers, that a few of them will be constructed. But I know that the government of Senator Basio too is committed to ensuring that healthcare services get to the last miles in Cross River State, in all our remote communities.
Okay.
And then I also saw a question in education. The total budgetary provision for education is the 47 billion naira for education, 47 billion naira for education.
Okay, are you able to, now we're talking about education, are you able to tell us what the government's plans are for the state library that has been derelict for the last maybe 12 years or so?
All right. The case of the library was a case of emergency. So the governor did not have to wait for 2024 for actions to be taken about the renovation of the library. Sometime last year, the governor had taken one of the agencies of government had presented a memo to the State Executive Council for the renovation of the library. I am aware that the contract for the renovation of the library was awarded, and I'm also aware that work is ongoing at the library complex right now, that we're hoping that, I don't know what the tenure of the contract is for now, but I'm hoping that in the coming months, that we'll have a state library again. I'm very sure about that because there is a contract in force.
Okay, thanks for that. We have Anna. I think Anna would like to ask a question. So Anna, I'm going to unmute you. And so please go ahead and ask your question. And again, if anyone has a question or a comment that they would like to make, use the reactions icon by, use that to raise your hand. Give you an opportunity to ask your question or make your comment.
Okay.
Anna,
good evening.
Maybe tell us about your background and then ask your question or give your comment.
Good evening, Iso, and thank you so much. I've followed TCRM since last year for a while now, and I want to appreciate what you're doing. Thank you very much. I am Dr. Mrs. Hannah Ita. I'm a lecturer in Unicross. I'm sure that that name brings a lot of things to mind. So that's why I'm interested in education. Now, I'm sure you'll be surprised to know that Unicross is the only state university in Cross River. And since 2002 that school was put to bed, the state government, Cross River state government, has not put any building up in any of the campuses of Unicross. For whatever reason, the school was converted from a polytechnic to a university. And then it was abandoned like an orphan. Nothing on ground to show that it is owned by the Cross River State government. So now that we have a governor that is listening, a governor that is ready to do more than talk, please, I think it's time for the government to come into Unicross and change the narrative. I don't want to dwell on our salary issues. The whole Christmas, we didn't have our November salaries for Christmas. It has never been this bad, but I mean, there were issues. So I am so much concerned about the budget for Unicross, not just education, blanket education. What is the plan of the government for Unicross? We have 4 campuses. It is too difficult to manage 4 campuses across LGAs in the state. Are they going to merge it into one? What are the plans? There should be some discussion going on now about Unicross. And I will be very happy to know that the salary issue will finally be taken care of. Because I know Governor too is ready to make a change. So let his government be the one that will go down history as the government that changed things for Unicross staff and students, please. So what are the plans? I don't know if the SA has any little thing to even give me a little hope that we are being discussed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hannah. SA, over to you, please.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Hannah, thank you very much for your comments. I want to be very specific. The CRUTEC, now Unicross, the state-owned university, has a total budgetary provision of 8 billion naira. A total budgeted provision of 8 billion naira. And I want to say that you're being very unfair, so, in my opinion anyway, to the Cross River State government when you say the government has not been doing anything for CRUTEC. Without the government, your salaries will not be paid. And I know government runs a subvention. There is a subvention for CRUTEC. Maybe I know the Vice Chancellor during the last bilateral meeting had also mentioned that the subvention is grossly inadequate to cater for the overall needs of the university. But from the submissions we have in budget, we are aware that the CRUTEC has a personnel expenditure for 2024 to the tune of about 5.1 billion naira, and then has a recurrent expenditure of about 1 billion naira. So total recurrent expenditure that CRUTEC will incur in 2024 is 6 billion naira. And the state government is also looking at supporting CRUTEC alongside with TED Fund and other grants that might be coming to the state to the tune of about 1.8 billion. We'll call it approximately 2 billion naira. So the state government has been supporting CRUTEC. The state government will continue to support CRUTEC. I am aware that the Vice Chancellor has open engagement with the government of the state, that there is need to do an upward review of the subvention that the university has been assessing. And then we're hopeful that under the leadership of Senator Basio too, that will be reviewed. Let me also speak on behalf of government as a state actor. We regret the fact that your salaries were not paid. And I'm not sure if that was brought to the governor's attention, because the governor is committed to the people's affairs, and the governor will not just want to sit back and see salaries not paid, not for any reason. Sincere apologies. But I also want to use the opportunity to commend the Vice Chancellor of the university, because he's always in the budget office. He's doing so much to see how services could be improved, including welfare of the people working in Unicross.
Okay, thank you very much, Essie. Dr. Anna, you raised your hand again. Does that mean you want to ask a further question or you want to make a comment?
I'm muted. I'm sorry, please. This is an international program. SA shouldn't quote me wrongly so that it won't be used as a weapon against me somewhere. I didn't say the government of Cross River has not done anything for Unicross. SA, I said there's no
Okay,
structure on ground. There's no building. There's no classroom. Am I wrong, please? That has been built by the Cross River State government. Please, am I wrong? Is there a classroom built by the state government in Unicross as it stands now?
Madam, I want to think that maybe you speak for your campus. I know that the Vice Chancellor has been doing a few projects through the funding that has been provided by the state government. You could be in a particular campus and you may not know what is happening across the other three campuses. And you're also aware that recently that the Cross River State government supported CROTEC to ensure that there are renovations of classrooms. I wouldn't know in which of the campuses, but I'm aware that the Vice Chancellor embarked on renovation of a few of their facilities recently. I was not quoting you, so I'm sorry if that is how you understood it. But my point is that the government of Cross River State is supporting Unicross very well within available resources.
Thank you, and I hope that, Dr. Anna, I hope that puts that matter to bed. But thank you very much for your comments. And I doubt that the governor will not be aware that salaries for Unicross staff were not paid. But SA, since we have you here, we believe that the governor will be duly informed. Okay, so I will yield the floor to Daniel Bassi. So Daniel, if you can introduce yourself to us and then tell us about your question.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Daniel.
Yeah, my name is Daniel Bassi. Okay, so I just have two questions to ask. One, the government did promise, or the governor himself did promise that he was going to ensure that gratuities were paid before the end of last year. And rather earlier this year, we are seeing memo for pensioners, local government and state pensioners to go for BVN verification and all that and all that. So I just want to find out, maybe the last year the governor referred to is yet to end, but do we have an idea when we should expect this to happen, especially for those of us that have parents who are pensioners and since they retired have not received their gratuities? Secondly, also, I want to find out what the state government's position or plans are for scholarships, for further studies, and bursaries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Thank you, Daniel. Essie, do you want to react to that, please?
All right, thank you very, very much. I think the first thing that just spoke about is gratuity. Yeah. Yes, it is the desire of Governor Bassi Otu to pay gratuity, and the governor had already set structures in place to see how gratuities could be paid last year. And in looking at this, we have a backlog. I understand that we have a backlog of about 40 billion naira, and the governor will not just be able to just swing into action to see how these gratuities are being paid. Right now, I'm aware that data are being populated. We understand that gratuities was last paid in Cross River State in 2013, and the governor has directed the relevant agencies to ensure that data are being populated from when people left service. So what that means is that the people that left service in 2013, 2014, it will be through that graduation. And it's important also for me to mention that one of the upward review that was done that took our budget from 250 to 296 billion is an upward review of gratuity. I think we have a total of gratuity and pension. We have a total provision of about 28 billion naira. In fact, the governor is committed, is so determined. As at the last day, the day the governor signed the budget, the governor mentioned to me privately that he's committed to paying gratuity, that he's always praying for that we should just have enough resources. If we have available resources available, I am very sure the government will be able to clear the 28 billion naira that has been provided in the 2024 budget. for gratuity. So we are very hopeful that gratuity will be paid. We are very, very hopeful that gratuity will be paid.
Okay, Daniel, just to read out what the governor's statement was on gratuity during his speech to the House of Assembly. It says in 2024 budget, the state government has made provision for the staggered payment of gratuity to all retired civil and public servants in the state. We therefore employ our retirees to exhibit patience and cooperate with the state government as good times are around the corner. So maybe something that we may do in one of our future conversations might be to maybe invite the head of service or whoever it is that may be more accountable for gratuities and have a conversation around that. But that's what the governor said. And I'm reading this out, not as an advocate of the government, but so that we know what the governor has said so that we can hold the governor accountable. So we want to support the governor, but we also want to hold the governor accountable for what he says. Okay, I don't.
Mr. Esop, please, Mr. Esop, what the governor said has also been translated into the law of the state. What you read out has been translated into the law of the state. That is why you have an improved provision for gratuity. So that's commitment on itself, that now payment of gratuity is part of the 2024 appropriation law. And I know that the government is not going to go back on paying gratuity in 2024.
Okay, but SA, the fact that it is law, the truth about it, and maybe we'll come back, we will start to wrap down the conversation, in a short while. But something that we talk about is budget performance, because the fact that it has been signed into law doesn't necessarily mean it will happen exactly as it's been signed. So maybe we'll talk about budget performance, because the question that I had asked you before, I think you had issues with your audio, was why should the people of be optimistic? So this is the people first budget. Should they really be optimistic, or is this like business as usual? Budget has been passed. We passed budget of 1 trillion. We passed budget of 200 billion. It has made no difference to my life. So I'll come back to you to answer that question. But I noticed David Etim. David, please, sorry, let's bring you back into the...
No. I just wanted to clarify. I think there is one big error that is going on here. People are personalizing government to the governor. I think it is very wrong. The governor is the head of government, quite all right, but he is not government. Government is a machinery. The governor makes a statement. He follows it through, like Otu has said, into an act or into a law. That law has to be operated by people. Things have to be get done. So the lady from Crutech, the gentleman, Daniel, trying to attach pension payment to governor. I think we shouldn't do that. Let's not make the mistake. Governor is head of government, but he's not government. Government is a machinery. And that machinery must work. And it has a process to work. Like Otu said, people have to, we are Nigerians. There is fraud. People try to short-circuit the system. People try to take advantage of the system. There has to be a due process that will prevent fraud from easily taking place. No matter how you do it, people will try to come in and chop money and whatever. But we've got to put a structure in place that enables some degree of checks and balances. And that will take a process. It will create some degree of bottleneck, some degree of red tape, but we need to follow the process and make sure that the process works. Okay, that's just what I wanted to chip in. Thank you.
Let me respond to you on that. And I think I'd like to hear the SA's thoughts in terms of the structure of how government is run. So now, I know that many years ago, you present your budget, you defend your budget, you get your budget approved, you implement your budget. So yes, you had greater control over your budget as a CEO of a ministry or a department. At some point, things changed, and yes, you create your budget proposal gets passed, but you have very little control over the implementation of that budget, because every single aspect of pretty much every expenditure that you want to make has to go to the governor as a memo for him to approve. When the governor approves, it goes to the accountant general, where you start beginning to have issues in actually accessing any funds at all. So, Ese, maybe you would want to speak about this because I know once upon a time in Nigerian government, CEOs had greater control over how they spend their budgets, but that is not the case now. And I think that accounts for why people would say the governor, the governor, the governor, because at the end of the day, Nigerian governors have presented themselves for the most part as emperors. And that's why everybody looks at them. Just my view anyway. Essay, please, if you can just shed some light on that.
Okay, on the payment structure based on the budget?
No, so so at the moment, maybe one question I ask you, how much control does a chief executive of a ministry or department have over his or her budget? At this,
100%, and it's important, 100% control. Ministries, departments, and agencies have 100% control over their budgetary provision. Like you rightly stated, mentioned.
governor.
Can you hear me?
Subject to the approval of the governor.
Yes, subject to the approval of the governor, yes. Subject to the approval of the governor, but they have 100%. But one thing I also need to establish is that these approvals are granted based on availability of resources and priorities.
Yeah. Okay. Daniel, I think Daniel posted some further comments, still waiting for matters on bursary and scholarships. And governor, not government said gratuities will be paid before the end of 2023. 2024 is a new year. What happened to the promise made by the governor as concerning 2023? So what Daniel is trying to say is that the governor made a promise, which according to him was time bound, and the governor's broken his promise. So I don't know, if that's something you want to react to.
Sorry, okay. I didn't get you correctly.
No, I was saying, Daniel, the gentleman who asked the question earlier was saying that he was saying, what about bursaries and scholarships? That's one aspect of his question. And the second one he was saying is that it was the governor, not the government, that said gratuities will be paid before the end of 2023. So he's saying that the governor promised that gratuities will be paid before the end of 2023, and that hasn't been done as yet.
Okay. I think Mr. David Etim had clarified. The governor is only the head of government. And the governor will make a declaration. It is left for his subordinate to ensure that the governor's directives are being carried out. And in carrying out the governor's directive as a government, different agencies of government will have to work together. And in this issue of gratuity, it is not something that the state will just run into. I am very sure that is why there's been this delay, because you have the Ministry of Establishment on one side, you have the Office of the Head of Service on one side, you have the Civil Service Commission on one side, you also have the Office of the Accountant General on one side. So, and we're talking about records. We are talking about records here. So until these records are properly assembled, then the state will be making a lot of mistakes, because we're also conscious that there could be dishonest people in the process. And the governor is determined to do away with anything sharp practice. So I just want to appeal to perseverance, that we should be a little bit patient. And the governor had already mentioned it, that we should not be patient with him, that gratuities will be paid. And we are very hopeful that it will be paid. And then for bursary and scholarship, the State Ministry of Education is saddled with that responsibility. I am aware the Commissioner for Education, Senator Stephen Ode, has made provision for scholarship and bursary. We're just waiting that by the time we have resources, and when the ministry is also able to map out their plans in that regard, that scholarships will be granted to deserving students.
Okay. Leslie, thanks very much. We will begin to wind down the conversation, and David, I'll come to you for sort of final remarks. But before I do that, let me read out a few comments. So, Dr. Anna says the face of government is the governor. Yes, there are structures, but if those structures don't work, who should be held accountable? Who will bring the culprit to book? The citizen? No, the governor gives the approvals both ways. So David Etim is wrong, saying it is not about the governor. So that's Dr. Anna's response. Someone sent me a private message to say no excuses for non-payment of salaries. Nobody should make excuses for any failures from government. Atom says the governor is the head of government. The buck ends with him. He made a promise that he's responsible for fulfilling. He should never have made such a promise without the ability to fulfill it. So thank you for the comments. I think SA will take your advice to be a little more patient with the governor, but obviously you can see that when the governor makes a statement, and this should be brought to the governor's attention, that people do take his words seriously and will hold him accountable for the promises that he makes. And something, Daniel, I don't know, something that you may consider doing is writing an open letter to the governor, perhaps, on this matter. In winding down, I think I will ask David Etim, please, if you can unmute yourself and maybe just give us some closing remarks. And then I'll come back to the essay to give us his remarks, and then we'll take some announcements and close. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Esau. This has been an interesting engagement. I look forward to a lot more forthright engagements like this. I mean, the SA budget has been, I think, extremely forthright and extremely transparent in his engagement. And I want to commend him. I want to commend him and say, please keep up the spirit. Because as we say, the slogan in Calabar is that it's a season of sweetness. So let's speculate that season of sweetness down, to pensioners, Unicross, and everybody. But truth be told, it's a lot of work to be done. I don't envy the governor in any way because the system is broken. Let's be honest to ourselves. The system is broken. And fixing anything, as they say, building a new house is easier than renovating a house for anybody that has done it. Fixing a broken system is a Herculean task. So I think we all need to be patient with the governor and the government. Intention is one thing. The process to make that and bring that to be, even God, when he created the world, he spoke and it took some time before that which he spoke became manifest. So, and he's not God, and the governor is not God. So you can understand that it will take time. Let's be patient. I honestly believe that there is a lot of sincerity in this government. And I look forward to collaborating. Government is collaborating very well. And I encourage them to keep up that engagement and keep the doors open to private sector and the citizenry. And I, on the side of the citizenry, I also want to say we need to be engaging with government. It's not about them against us. It's a team. I said that government and the citizenry are Siamese twins, joined at the heart, the stomach, the intestines. So if the governor has a heart attack, it will affect all of us. If the government does something wrong or puts something in his mouth that runs its stomach, all of us are going to have running stomach. If there's an infection in government's intestine, it affects all of us. So corruption is an infection in the intestines. We all have problems. The government does something wrong. We all have running stomach. The government has a heart attack. There's not enough money in the system. We all have a heart attack. So we need to understand that it is not them against us. It is us with us. And we all need to work together and play our role. Thank you very much.
David, thank you very much. Thank you. So you said the slogan is that it's a season of sweetness, right?
Yes, sir. It is. That's the slogan.
The unofficial Nigerian slogan, I understand, is for this year, we don't agree for anybody. So I think in the spirit of that,
too.
The people of Cross River State need to hold their government accountable. We need to collectively hold our government accountable. We don't agree for anybody. All right, SA, please, over to you. And in your final statement, maybe if you can just give us that reassurance and maybe speak a little bit about budget performance from previous years, because if we have a budget and the performance is low for previous budgets, then there's very little reason to be optimistic. If you can speak on that, please.
All right, thank you very much. And I want to begin my closing note by commending you for putting up this program. And I'm also happy with the participation. But let me also speak to Cross-Riverans who are listening to this program and reassure them that the government of Cross River State under the leadership of Senator Basio too is committed to serving the people. And when I say that the government is committed to serving the people, I mean it in every word of it, that the government of Cross River State is committed. Like now, the issues of salary, let me quickly clear that. The government of Cross River State does not pay salary to Unicross staff. I want to just bring this matter to a close, that government of Cross River State does not pay salaries directly to CRUTEC staff. What government provides to CRUTEC is subvention. CRUTEC is an autonomous institution. Government only provides subvention, and it is that subvention that the management of the university will use to pay their staff salaries. I am very sure if salaries for employees of CRUTEC were paid directly from the Office of the Accountant General, that there is absolutely no way the governor will sit back and allow a staff not to earn a month's salary. Salary is the priority in Cross River State. Salary is the priority. I'm aware of that as the SA budget. Salary is the priority. And then for gratuity, like the governor had also mentioned in his speech, that people should just exercise a little bit of patience. That in the coming days, when all the structures are put in place, that there will be no fraud, at least fraud will be reduced, that gratuity will be paid. And I also want to use this opportunity to mention that the state internal revenue is doing so much in terms of widening out the tax net. We also want to encourage people that for us to have improved services in Cross River State, that our people should be able to pay taxes, because this taxes is what government will use for the development of the state. And on a final note, the government of Governor Basotu is committed to service delivery. I am very sure that in the coming days, that a lot of development activities will be rolled out with the signing of the 2024 budget into law. We want to encourage our people to keep supporting the government of Cross River State. If you have inquiries, please don't hesitate to visit budget office. Don't hesitate to also to visit the relevant implementing agency. If you have issues regarding education, for instance, please you stop by at the Cross River State Ministry of Education to make your inquiries. If you have issues bordering on the performance of the budget, our doors in budget office is open 24 hours. Please feel free to also approach us. If you have issues that people are siphoning or people are stealing government resources or from levies collected, please feel free to approach the Internal Revenue Service, because the acting chairman of the service is so determined to improve on revenue generation. When he came, I know that our revenue targets were just below $1 billion naira, but with Prince Edwin Okon in place, I think as at the last check, we're able to do about 2.5 billion naira. So we want to encourage people to just support this government, and with your support, because on our own we will not be able to do anything. We are limited to what we know, and I think it's a collective responsibility. And for me, I'm happy that I was part of this conversation. I'll do my very best to take this conversation to the governor. And I want to also apologize on behalf of government, that the governor, in his desires, would have wanted to pay gratuity in 2023. And that was why he made that declaration. But circumstances beyond the government control may have hindered that. But we are very hopeful that in 2024, gratuities will be paid. And we want to apologize to our people that we are very sorry for any inconveniences the delay in payments of some of these benefits may have caused some people, but I know that in the coming days, all of this will be better improved upon. We want to encourage you on the panel to support the government of Cross River State under the leadership of Senator Basio. Thank you very much. And then on budget performance report, budget performance report will always be uploaded timely on or before the 31st of January, as is required by the Cross River State Public Finance Management Law. We will ensure that the budget performance report for a fourth quarter of 2023 will be made available. And I want to encourage perseverance so at all time to follow budget activities. All our activities are published online. All the monies that come to Cross River State, we declare them online. You can go look at them, and we also declare them how these monies are being used, who is using Cross River State money, and who is giving us this money to spend. So please keep supporting our government under the leadership of Prince Otu. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, S. Just one final question to you. Should Perseverance be optimistic?
Yes. Perseverance should be very, very optimistic. In fact, let me say this. In the wisdom of the governor had created two new ministries that will impact directly on the life of Perseverance. One of the ministry is Human Capital Development and Entrepreneurial Development. This ministry is charged with assisting our people to build capacity. And then we have the other one that is called Ministry of Wealth Creation. The government has made sufficient provision in these two ministries to encourage our people to be self-independent in terms of earnings.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. There are some other comments there, but unfortunately, because of the time available, I'm not going to be able to read them out. But SA, thank you very much. We did extend an invitation to the Commissioner for Finance, and as far as I'm aware, he was meant to attend. Unfortunately, he wasn't here. It would have been great to have him, but thank you very much for coming. And this is the second time you're coming on a conversation with us, and it's never been an issue getting you on. And for that, we're really grateful that you would see this as a priority to come out and answer questions and answer them with with the heart of a public servant. So I must commend you for that. Thank you very much. I'll extend my thanks to everyone who's been on this conversation. It's the start of the year. There's many more to come. We'll be having them fortnightly. So please keep in touch with us. Join our platforms, and that way you're able to stay informed about what the topics for the conversations are. Our website is, I'll leave that. So I'll hand over to Kennedy or Mojefe to give some brief announcements before we end the wrap up for the day. Kennedy.
All right, thank you very much, sir. And thank you everybody for joining. And yeah, we really appreciate everyone joining us at this TCRM conversation. TCRM, the Cross River Movement, is an organization that's founded by Mr. Basi's Song, and the full purpose is to engage the government and promote good governance in Cross River State. You can always do well to visit our website and connect with us on our website, www.crossrivermove.com, www.crossrivermove.com. We're also on all social media handles. You can visit us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at crossriver_move, crossriver_move. So you can just search for that and you can get us. And this conversation is not going to end. We're going to continue the conversations. You can always leave your comments. If you go to Facebook, you see this video. The team was head live there. So you can always leave your comment, your contributions, and more comments on the Cross River pages, and we'll do well to make sure that we forward your information and your concerns to the government and those that are concerned. Our next event will be having the coming next Sunday. We'll be having the Cross River engagement, which is called the TCRM Talks. So follow our handles to get the topic and the speaker for that. And these TCRM conversation is also going to be happening every fortnight. That we'll be expecting more people from the ministries to come in, and let's engage them and let's continue to ask questions and do our part as citizens to ensure that we have a better Cross River State. So once again, I would say happy new year and wish everyone a prosperous new year from CCRM.
Kennedy, thank you very much. So once again, thank you very much, SA, Otu-Ita, and David Etim for joining us as guests on this program. And thanks to everyone who's taken our time to attend. We look forward to seeing you on the next one. God bless and bye-bye. Bye for now.